Okay, so I am going to try and review every book that I've read a year to date. So from March/April of 2023 to today, which is April of 2024. I don't remember the date. I think it's 15th. So anyway, I'm going to start with the first book I read. I read all Christian books. One of them was a fiction. Most of them have been missionary biographies. A few of them have been like motherhood, womanhood, time-saving books, but all written from a Christian perspective with glorifying the Lord in mind. So that's been super helpful. Really, by nature, I'm not a reader. It takes a lot of discipline for me, but I just decided that that would be a better form of entertainment and a lot less brain rotting than pretty much anything else I would normally choose. So anyway, I have found so many treasures in books, and it's really changed my thinking in a lot of ways and really helped me keep my perspective in the right place. I don't know that all books will do that for you. I think missionary biographies tend to do a pretty good job of that. But anyway, so the first one I'm going to start with is Jungle Pilot, and I'm going to focus on that. So this is Nate Saint. This is A Wild Donnie, and it is the gripping story of the life and witness of Nate Saint, martyred missionary to Ecuador. So this man right here was speared in 1956. He was a pilot, and this story goes through his upbringing, his fascination with planes from a young age, his wonderful family and upbringing, his experience with sickness as a child that was debilitating, and then the Lord using that later, and changing his desire to get somewhere in the military to using aviation and missions. And he really changed a lot. Aviation changed everything for missionaries that were now able to work in really isolated places but still get help quickly. So he would fly somewhere in 15 minutes. It would normally be like a day and a half, 2-day hike or more, through treacherous situations. So him and his wife Marge went there, I think 4 or 5 years before 1956, so like 1951 or 2. And they have a beautiful love story, a really touching story. Wonderful family, children, 3 children. And so he and 4 other missionaries, the Lord put a burden on their heart to reach an unreached people group that had a 60% homicide rate. They were going to be going extinct because of the killing that went on at the time. They just killed their own and others constantly. Nobody had ever made contact with them without being killed. But I mean, Nate Saint was just a very, very smart man and did a lot to improve missionary aviation and made a lot of different things possible. I don't even know how I could possibly go over all of the things that he did that paved the way for other missionary aviators. And this book is written so well. It's a lot of his personal journals, and his son had a big part in writing it. And his son has written other books that are also my favorite. So this one and The End of the Spear tie for my absolute top favorite books ever. They're very moving and convicting, and Nate Saint had so many wonderful things to say and such a heart for the Lord and such wonderful perspective that has really shaped the way I think about a lot. I want to reread this. But anyway, I'm going to try and read a few quotes from this. This book is a 320-page book. And so I've just highlighted some of the best things that I have been able to find that he said in here quickly that I highlighted when I read it. So his heart, and this is what people wrote about him. He thought of the Alcas, not as savages, but as people for whom Christ died. And that's really how we should view every lost soul. And then he wrote, "We know that there is only one answer when our country demands that we share the price of freedom. Yet when the Lord asks us to pay the price for world evangelism, we often answer without a word, we cannot go. We say it costs too much. If God didn't hold back his only son, but gave him up to pay the price for our failure and sin, then how can we Christians hold back our lives, the lives that he really owns? There's also really neat pictures included in this, really clear pictures of him and his children, and then his grandchildren with the people that he was speared by. The follow-up of this story is what makes this so incredible. He didn't just die, in vain. The Lord has used their story and countless millions of lives to call others to the mission field. But also, I'll have to go over that later. His son ended up having a relationship with a man who speared him as if a father-son. So that is what a lot of the end of the spear, another book that I'll be reviewing, is about. So then another quote is, and this is one of the most life-altering quotes I've read. It's on page 157 for anybody who wants to know. Lots of things are like that. They feel nice or they look nice, but they don't help us get the job done. They hold us back. So we need to get rid of them. The job that the Lord Jesus Christ has for you and me is not an easy one. If you want to serve him, if you want to help win others to Christ, you will have to choose one thing or another. And boy, has the Lord been teaching me that this year. When life's flight is over, and we unload our cargo at the other end, the fellow who got rid of the unnecessary weight will have the most valuable cargo to present the Lord. Not only that, there's another secret. 2 airplanes may look the same, but one may be able to lift twice the load into the air. The difference is the horsepower of the engine. Bible reading is the power of the Christian life. Dead weight doesn't do you any good, and the big plane with little horsepower doesn't go anywhere. I've tried to let that influence most all of my decisions. He felt that Christians at home made too much over missionaries. It's too bad there has to be so much bad playing and bugle blowing to get so little accomplished, he confided to his mother. I wonder if one reason people tend to make a missionary a hero isn't that they can make themselves feel somehow that he is doing the impossible. They themselves are not directly indicted with the responsibility for not going. If there's anything worse than someone staying at home for a nebulous physiological or theological reason, it is someone who goes on that basis. So basically, we make the missionaries' jobs in our minds seem so impossible that we're like, well, we could never do that. And we kind of excuse ourselves from that kind of task. And that's sad. I've done the same thing. Ed and Mary Lou, so another one of the couples, another one of the men that was speared. So all of the men that were speared in 1956 had wives, and most of them had children. But Ed McCully was one of the men who also was speared. Ed and Mary Lou are unusually gifted people, yet God called them to the needs of isolated people groups of jungle Indians. I know that many young people feel that since God has blessed them with wonderful personalities and talents, the Indians wouldn't appreciate. That means that they aren't called, but I'm here as a witness to say that Ed and Mary Lou are a couple who would eclipse many acclaimed personalities. And then he wrote a little further down, one of the outstanding inspirations and blessings that Marge's and mine is the fellowship and privilege of service we enjoy with and for some of God's choicest servants who have counted out their lives dear unto themselves. All 27 of them. And because they didn't count their lives dear unto themselves, they've helped to impact millions of lives. There are a few books that I have read that have moved me like this one, and every bit of it is gold, so you should read it.